Hey everybody, this is Cameron here. I'm just making a video to talk about this question, what does commitment look like? And it was a challenge that was put out by Mitch in the Self-Perfected group, of which I'm a part, and I would encourage you to join as well. If you search self-perfected, self-perfected in the search bar in Facebook, you'll find the group. And the point about commitment, it's a interesting word because, well, it's like any word really. Whenever we use a word, we each bring our own assumptions in terms of what we mean by it, but we also have what other people mean or think they understand from what we're saying. So it's like we have differences in definitions. But there's also differences in context as well. And for example, if you want to look at what does commitment look like, well, you could look at it from the perspective of what it looks like right now in this world. Look around at the world. Look at what's going on right now in the world. With everyone fearful of a virus, fearful of where they're going to get their next paycheck, fearful of whether they can trust their neighbor, fearful of whether their spouse is going to leave them, whether their kids love them, whether they'll take care of them when they're older. If you're a child, fear of your parent, fear of your teacher, fear of the world generally, fear of not being able to have work when you're older. If you're a young person looking at that kind of stuff right now, we have a world that is committed to fear, and it is a commitment to only looking for what gives you a feeling of happiness. Happiness is the other side of fear. We have a world where the number one thing that is promoted as the most important thing is free choice, freedom of choice, free will. But rarely does anyone talk about what it really means to have free choice in a world or in a reality where your actions not only affect others, but they affect yourself. Because we live in a system that's interdependent on every other part of reality, every other atom and molecule in existence. So your choices are not free from the perspective of they're free from consequence. It's simply free from the perspective that you are able to choose, to a certain degree anyways, whatever you want to choose given the context of a situation. You can choose to do what's best, or you can choose to do what's not best. But depending on the environment you're in and the context of where you are at in terms of a position in the system we live in, your choices will be limited. And if you really believe you have free choice, really, then just consider what you're not able to do right now because of the amounts of money in your bank account, or the condition of your physical body, or simply the condition of your mind and your mindset and how you feel about yourself and how you feel about other people. We do not actually have free choice currently. Now, that's difficult for some people because we have such a commitment to this concept of freedom of choice and free will. But it's more like a thing we want to have and are trying to convince ourselves that we have, rather than how can we practically live in a way where we do have free choice, where we do have freedom of just life, freedom to live, freedom to express ourselves. That will only exist when we shift our commitments from fear and self-interest to a commitment towards principles that are best for all. In other words, when we decide to exercise our choices in ways that only benefit what is best for everybody, then our choices, the consequences, will be best for us. In other words, you could think of it as our choices will be free from consequence. Because typically we think of consequence as something that it happens, that we would not like to happen, although it's not technically the definition of the word consequence. But if you wanted to move and live in a world where what you do actually supports you to expand and grow, then you have to consider the principle of what's best for all. And that has to be what the commitment is. And what would a world look like where everyone is committed to that principle? Well, imagine waking up and you don't have to worry about where you're going to get food from. Imagine waking up and you have all of the best clothing, you have the best technology, you have the best home environment, building, shelter, whatever you want to call it. You have all the best of everything, and your relationships are supportive. People who you interact with respect you. They consider you as an equal. They also see that you have value, intrinsic value, and that you're just as equally important as every person, and yet you provide a value to others in your relationships that is unique to you. And you get unique value from each other person and each other thing in reality in a way that supports you to be the very best. And we all work together in a way that constantly improves and grows and expands, not from a starting point of lack and fear, but from a starting point of, we have already solved all the problems of lack that would create any level of fear within anyone. And now we have a balance where you wouldn't mind switching shoes with anybody else or any other part of reality. And then that's when our real creativity and creative experience of life and reality comes in, where we begin to expand and improve upon that balance and take it to levels that we literally can't imagine right now, because our imagination is so limited by our commitment to fear. So what can you do about that right now? One, you can join Self-Perfected, Self-Perfected. It's a group on Facebook, like I said in the beginning. And you can start participating in that group, because it's the only place that you're going to find a presentation of these principles that is palatable, that will make sense to most people who are looking to not just go along with what everyone else is doing, but really want to not just improve their lives, but develop a real sense of meaning and purpose in life beyond just yourself, like where you really feel a part of something, you feel a part of community. We don't really have a commitment really to community in this world. We tend to have a commitment to a community that is highly dysfunctional rather than one that supports each other for real. That doesn't mean you're going to like everything initially that someone else says to you, even if they're in a committed agreement of support with you. Because sometimes we are going to have to challenge ourselves and challenge each other to face ourselves in self-honesty. Because we've already accepted within us programs of fear and mistrust. So we're going to have to challenge those things. And so that is my commitment to myself and to this world, is to challenge myself and is to challenge everyone else to realize that we're here to do so much more on this planet than what we're currently accepting and allowing, what we are currently allowing ourselves to be committed to. And that only by committing ourselves to a set of common principles that are based in the concept of what is best for everyone will our world become one of peace and harmony and love and friendship and all those things that we really ideally want, that we seek, that we search for, and that we try to emulate, but we always fall short from, because we live in such a discordant reality, where we feel like we can't really open up and trust another person because we have to protect ourselves at some level. But we're only going to change that by standing up one by one and committing ourselves to these points and showing others that it's okay to do the same. So that is my commitment. And if you resonate with that commitment, I would highly suggest you to join the Self-Perfected group on Facebook. I'll also post a link to it down below so you can check it out. All right, so that's my video on this topic, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Take care.